Royal Spa Delivery, Receiving, and Setup. Thank you for choosing a Royal Spa float pod. This video will explain the delivery and setup of your pod. First, the tools you'll need to set up and maintain the pod. You'll need a screwdriver, an Allen wrench, a nail set, a 1/2-inch wrench, a hammer, and an O-ring wrench or caliper. Before the arrival of your pod, you'll need to prepare the space where you'll be placing it. Prep space. Make sure the space is easily accessible, well ventilated, with a solid, stable, and level floor surface. Power. You'll need 20 amp, 220 volt GFCI circuit 3-wire with ground, Hubble L14-30 receptacle or equivalent. Delivery. Oftentimes the biggest challenge is last mile fulfillment. How to get it from the truck into your space. 1. You can schedule to meet the delivery truck at the local terminal. Make sure you have a heavy-duty pickup truck or box truck strong enough to carry the payload of the float pod. Bring 4 strong people to help transfer from truck to final destination. Also, have moving blankets on hand for additional protection for the pod. 2. You can schedule the truck to meet you at your location. Please note that a truck driver is not responsible to unload the pod. Make sure you have at least 4 strong people to unload and carry the pod to your space. 3. Or you can hire piano movers to either meet the pod at the terminal or meet the pod at your space to unload and carry it into your space. Piano movers are experts at transporting heavy, bulky, valuable items. 4. Also, having a fork truck and driver on site may help in unloading and transporting the pod. Fork trucks and drivers are available for rent. Unpacking and setup. Please follow these steps to ensure a smooth installation process. Carefully remove the wooden crate, being careful not to damage the pod in any way. Moving blankets and a clean padded dolly will assist in this process. Remove the shrink wrap that's covering the pod. Be sure not to use any sharp objects during removal in order not to damage the pod. If your doors are narrow and the pod needs to be rotated on its side to bring it into the space, here are the steps for disassembly and reassembly of the pod. Have at least 2 additional people available to lift and carefully move the pod and door. Assign a safe, clean, scratch-free location to place the door once it's removed from the crate. Remove the shocks. In order to remove the shocks, you will need a 1/2-inch wrench. Carefully remove the nuts from each shock where it attaches to the lower pod. The shocks may remain attached to the pod door for easy reattachment. For safety purposes, always have 2 people supporting the weight of the door. Once the shocks are removed, the people supporting the door can carefully set it down. Removing the pod door. Now that the shocks are off the door, gently pull the pin out of the hinge located at the top of the pod. Do not mark or scratch the surface of the pod. Once the pin is removed, carefully remove the lid and set the door on a padded surface to avoid damage. This may take 2 or more people. Unbolt the top section and door. To separate the top from the bottom, unscrew 3 Allen bolts, 1 on each side and 1 in the front. After the bolts are removed, the entire top section of the pod will come off easily. Move into a safe place and set down gently. Note: do not remove the bolts that hold the pod lip in place. There will be signs indicating not to remove those bolts. Moving the pod into the space. Here are several pointers to make the moving process easier. The pieces are all heavy and awkward to lift. Using several people can make this process much easier. Move the base piece first and position it where you want it in the room. Note: the float pod must be placed on a uniformly firm and level surface with easy access to the electrical panel at the back of the pod. Make sure the electrical outlet is within easy reach of the pod. Caulk. Place a bead of 100% silicone caulk on the inner top edge of the bottom section. Make sure to caulk completely around the pod. Lay the bead on the edge closest to the water. Next, bring in the top piece of the pod and place it carefully on top of the bottom part. Make sure to line up the 3 bolt holes. Putting the pod back together. Once the top piece is set on and the bolt holes are aligned, replace the 3 bolts and tighten the nuts accordingly. Next, bring in the pod door and set it on the pod, aligning with the hinge. Carefully put the pin back into the hinge. This can be done using a small flathead screwdriver and a hammer. After the door is attached to the hinge, open the lid and reattach the shocks to the correct side of the door. Again, each shock should be fastened with 2 nuts. After the shocks are installed, the door will be self-supported. This completes the session on delivery, receiving, and setup of your Royal Spa float pod. If you have any questions, please contact the Royal Spa Technical Support Team.